Hey, 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 Neil Ratner Rock Doc here with a story. That was a little too low. We should do that again. There we go. Neil Ratner Rock Doc here with a story. All right, so this past week, Bob Marley would have celebrated his 75th birthday. Now, you may think of Marley as an artist who introduced us to reggae music, and that's it. But Bob's influence on global culture went much farther than that. And today, in honor of Bob, I thought I would tell you a few things about Marley that you might not know. But as usual, a little background first. Okay. So Bob's father, Norval Marley, was a white Jamaican, originally from Sussex, England, whose family came from Syrian Jewish origins, while his mother, Cedella, came from Jamaica. Now his father was a captain in the Royal Navy, who Bob rarely saw. And when he was 10 years old, his father died of a heart attack. His parents had already broken up, and then his mother moved the family to the Kingston, Jamaica slum of Trenchtown. Now, in Kingston, Bob was known by the natives as a white boy due to his mixed race origins, which was clearly visible to them in his light-colored skin. This made Bob feel very alienated, but in reality, it forced him to build up his confidence and self-esteem. Okay, so very early on, Bob befriended and played music with Neville Livingston, later known as Bunny Wailer. Bob's mother had married Bunny's father, and they were all living in a house together in Trenchtown, which proved very fortuitous for Bob, since Bunny's father had a radio and they could listen to R&B from the States as well as the local ska music, which was the new craze. All right, now it wasn't long before Marley found himself in a group with Bunny, Peter Tosh, Junior Braithwaite, Beverly Kelso, and Cherry Smith, which eventually became the first incarnation of the Wailers. Now, by 1964, the Wailers were topping the charts in Jamaica, but that was it. Outside of Jamaica, nobody knew who they were. Now the story gets interesting. Bob and the Wailers sign a deal with CBS Records in '72, and they go on a European tour supporting Johnny Nash. But while in London, the band asked their road manager to get them an introduction to Chris Blackwell to discuss royalty payments, because Blackwell's label, Island Records, had licensed a few of their tunes. Chris Blackwell is an interesting guy. He has a whole Jamaican history. I'm not going to go into it now, but very interesting guy. Started Island Records, very connected to Jamaica. Okay. But unbeknownst to them, Jimmy Cliff's his biggest Jimmy Cliff, who was reggae's biggest star at the time, had just left Island Records, and Blackwell was looking for a replacement. Okay. So they get a meeting with Chris Blackwell. And Blackwell sees Marley, and in Marley, he recognizes the elements to snare a rock and roll audience. And according to Blackwell, I was dealing with rock music, which was really rebel music. I felt that would really be the way to break Jamaican music. But you needed someone who could be that image. When Bob walked in, he really was that image. You know what Bob looked like? He had the long dreads, and he was Jamaican through and through, man. He had already become Rastafari, and Blackwell saw this is the guy I needed. So the meeting resulted in an offer for a 4,000 pound advance to record an album, and of course they did. And the album that they recorded for Island, Katchafire, was released worldwide in 1973, and it was packaged like a rock and roll record with a unique Zippo lighter. If you look at the album, you know what I mean. It didn't make Marley a star, but it did receive positive critical reception, and was followed later that year by the album Burnin', which included the song I Shot the Sheriff, And of course, Eric Clapton was given the album by his guitarist George Terry in the hope that he would enjoy it. But Clapton was so impressed that he chose to record a cover of I Shot the Sheriff, which became his first solo hit since Layla. Okay, now, the Wailers disbanded in 74 with each of the three main members pursuing solo careers. And despite the breakup, Marley continued recording as Bob Marley and the Wailers with a new backup band. And in 75, he had his international breakthrough with his first hit outside Jamaica, which was No Woman, No Cry from the Natty Dread album. Now, Marley left Jamaica at the end of 76 after he was shot, but not seriously wounded. It was an assassination attempt. In an apparent politically motivated assassination attempt. And it was 2 days before he was to perform at a free concert to cool political tensions in Jamaica, which, as usual, were terrible. In typical Marley fashion, he did the gig. And when asked why, he responded, "The people who are trying to make this world worse are taking a day off. How can I?" You go, Bob Marley. What a cool guy. During his exile in London, so then he went and he moved to London full time after that. He didn't want to know about Jamaica. And during his exile in London, Bob made what many say was his greatest album, Exodus. And if you're not familiar with it, check it out. And actually, if you listen to my WDST Radio Woodstock iHeartRadio report today at 3 o'clock, it's also on Marley, and I play Exodus. Okay. And I think Exodus and his album Legend are absolutely fantastic albums that everybody should check out. All right. 1977 was a fateful year for Bob in another way. Marley, who was an avid footballer, got injured while playing and had to see a doctor. Now, the injury wasn't serious, but during the examination, the doctor noticed a troubling dark spot under one of his toenails. Turned out that they took a biopsy and it was melanoma. And the doctor said amputation. But due to Marley's religious beliefs, he chose medical treatment instead. And unfortunately, that was absolutely the wrong choice, because in May of 1988, the cancer had spread, went to Marley's brain, and he died. All right. 10 days later, he was given a state funeral in Jamaica. Bob was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 94. In December 99, his album Exodus was named Album of the Century by Time magazine, and his song One Love was designated Song of the Millennium by the BBC. And since its release in 1984, Marley's Legend compilation sells about 250,000 copies annually. I don't know if it does anymore, but it did until streaming came on. I'm sure his streams are good too. All right, Bob Marley. Yeah, so that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Little snow flurries here and cool. Maybe we'll get a little snow in the next day or two. I hope so. I'm a skier. Conditions haven't been too good, but maybe they'll get better. My book, available on my website, neilratnerrockdoc.com. Buy the book. I'll autograph it any way you want. Interesting audiobook on Audible. I have a new podcast out there with British journalist Tony Fletcher. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. Facebook, Spotify, my medicine cabinet Spotify list is growing thanks to you guys. Thank you very much. Keep sharing my Facebook videos. When it gets to 100 shares, it goes on the medicine cabinet. All right, that's it for today. Have a great rest of the weekend, and look for me everywhere, and I will see you real soon. And remember, keep on rocking. Bye now.